Hello, beautiful stars. Welcome to Esoteric Tea with Lucky and Courtney. And tonight we have a lovely guest, Miss Robin Lewis from A Happy Hippie Holistic. Yes. Now, Robin, before we get all into talking about everything, I do want to say that your resource, A Happy Hippie Holistic, is is great. You do so
Thank you.
many things. You do wrapping of crystals. We just had Chloe on here a little bit who sells crystals, and you do the wrapping of crystals. It's wonderful. And individual pieces. You are an herbalist, you're a healer, you're a great many things. So thank you, Miss Robin, for showing up for Lucky and I tonight.
Sure. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, and happy Resurrection Weekend to people, however you want to interpret that, right? It could be
Yeah.
it's just springtime and bunnies and or it could be whatever, rebirth, reincarnation, awakening, whatever it may be for folks. So I hope everybody's enjoying themselves and at peace and at rest. So, Robin, I kind of did a little bit of promoting you. Good to see you. Lucky, it's
Nice to
good to
see
see
you.
you. Lucky, how are you, real quick?
I'm good. I'm
I'm
good.
good.
Life is
Okay.
an adventure, and I'm just going to try to cruise
Mhm.
with it, basically.
Okay. Excellent. So I wanted to have you on, Miss Robin, to more so talk about herbs because we're in the season of people are going to start figuring out what they want to plant.
Right.
And what's interesting is last, I believe, Mother's Day or her birthday, I don't know, my mother-in-law's birthday is like right next to Mother's Day. So I purchased your diabetes book that is all about how to, it's literally entitled Reversing Diabetes Holistically Through Herbs. Can you first walk us through how did you get into herbs in the first place? Like, where did your interest lie?
So when I was a child, I lived in a neighborhood. We didn't have a whole lot of kids in the neighborhood, right? And so I'd, be in the house making my mother crazy, and she'd say, "Go outside and play." Well, what am I gonna do? I don't know. Go make mud pies or something.
Yeah, right.
So, so I would go outside, and now she was born and raised on the same property that I was, right? So she knew the property. She knew all the plants that were there because her father was a mountain man, like a serious mountain man. He knew everything how to live off the land. So I would go outside and I would say, "Mom, what's this flower?" And I'd bring in things or I'd talk about what they were. What's this, back and forth. And so occasionally she would give me little snippets of information that she knew, like, "Oh, well, dandelion, in the spring, you can cut those and put them in salad." And I would look at her and go, "No, you buy stuff at the grocery store. You don't cut it from the ground. What?"
Right.
So, so but the things that she told me kind of stuck here and there, right?
Mm.
So as I got older, I started, somebody else had given me a book about herbs. And so I was looking at some of that things and I'm like, wow, this stuff does a lot. There's a lot of stuff in here. And so I kind of used here and there a little bit of different herbs, but I really didn't get hardcore into it until I was in my 40s. And a friend of mine wanted to go to a class. It was just a little weekend class. So I
Yeah.
went and there was so much information and I was just blown away and I don't. But she wanted to go on to the bigger class. And I said, yeah, okay, cool. All right, fine. So I ended up really getting into it. And actually she uses some herbs today, but she's not like an herbalist. She doesn't practice. She doesn't, go out of her way to use them, but she does use a certain amount for her and her horses and for her husband. But I really just really picked up and really grabbed it, right? So there was the more I work with the herbs, the more I realize how connected to nature I really am,
Mm.
and how just amazing it is. It's just amazing how everything is here that we need,
Mm.
and things will actually come as we need it. Real quick example, kudzu, the vine that ate the South. I don't know if everybody's familiar with that, but it's this massive vine. It's totally invasive. It just kind of showed up here and started swallowing the South. Well, around the same time that it showed up is also when Lyme disease moved into the South. And kudzu root gets rid of Lyme disease.
Oh, wow.
Yes. So we are provided with the things that we need as we need them. In the spring, the little things start shooting up out of the ground, and the weeds that are growing in your lawn are actually good for cleansing out all that winter funk and getting
Yeah.
started for the year, you know. So it's just like all of these things kind of pulled together for me, and I realized just how amazing the whole situation is.
Robin, you grew up in the north, right?
Yeah,
What part? New Jersey?
New
Where?
Jersey. Yeah,
Jersey.
New
Okay.
Jersey.
So
Right at
Lucky,
the foothills of the Catskill Mountains, right on the border.
okay, so Lucky, you're in Massachusetts, so you would kind of know the area that she's talking about a bit more than I. Um,
New
I mean, I don't
Jersey?
know. Well, I don't know if you've ever been there, but I'm just
It's
saying,
north of
like,
You're
here.
from Georgia. It's like you knowing Florida. You know Miami,
really?
right? You know
Oh,
Miami
shit.
very well.
Man, I got around all over the Midwest. You ask me about the Midwest, I know it. But
Well, I'm saying Massachusetts is pretty far from New
is
Jersey, and
it
I don't know
okay?
anything about New Jersey,
Okay.
unfortunately.
So what I was leading into was different plants growing in different places. Because when you brought up, you grew up, learning the plants there from your mom, who's her dad was this mountain man. But then moving to the South, and you brought that example in as to when that started coming into the South, it could heal Lyme disease. Did you have to like reteach yourself a lot of things because of the different plants that grow in different regions?
Well, it's funny because a lot of the main medicinal plants, or the main weeds, really, dandelion is dandelion, no matter where you
Right.
go. The leaf shape changes a little bit here and there, right? Or when it comes out, but there's a lot of crossover plants all around
Okay.
the United States. Now, in the desert, that's a totally different thing. They have different plants out there that I would not recognize. But there are a lot that overlap. Now, like in Georgia, there's a chickweed that has certain attributes and certain whatever, but in Florida, it looks different. However, when you pull it apart, you notice that it is still chickweed.
I made that face of chickweed because every spring I get a bunch of chickweed, and I swear to goodness, I'm like, oh, I have spinach growing in my yard. Yeah, let's
Yeah,
eat it. But it's not spinach. Every year I forget that it's chickweed, and it kind of makes me upset because I'm a
it's
spinach
it's
eater. I love
wonderful.
spinach. Wait, you
It
can eat
is
it? You
it
can
is
eat
the
it?
weed. Yes, it is basically the spinach of the weed world. It is amazing. It is one of those plants that it grows in the beginning of spring to help clear out the funk from winter. Yes.
Well,
You
then
pull
I'm
it,
just
you
gonna eat
put it into
that.
your salads. Yeah. So one thing about chickweed, when you pull it, pick it up, right? And you pull the stem apart, there should be a
Yeah.
little fine string in the middle going up the stem. That's way, you know, that's what it is.
Huh. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, damn. I just got rid of it all.
Of
Like,
course you
we should have
did.
talked to you earlier. Lucky, do you
And
have
you,
stuff like that in your yard? Like just natural things that you might pull up, or do you even partake in that?
Yes, yes. My whole backyard is like that. I, I always argue with my wife about the lawn. She likes a nice manicured lawn. Okay, fine. The front of the house had the manicured lawn. Back of the house, I want to go wild. I mean, I'll mow it
Mm.
occasionally, but I want to go wild and cannot remember. I mean, there's wild lettuce, there's dandelions, of course. There's other things out there. Of course, one of the biggest things where our problem up here is called Japanese knotweed,
oh
or
yeah,
it's a bamboo,
yeah,
and it's invasive. It grows like crazy. It grows like 6 feet in a course of a few weeks, if that. But the young ones are edible. They're all edible in some form or fashion. But again, the babies have the least amount of, there's no, the babies are not, the small beginning leaves and everything like that aren't bitter. While the older
Hmm.
ones are bitter. You have to cook them and, so that's one of the things is like the Japanese love it. The Asians love it. But again, they're expensive in the Japanese, the Asian store, but I'm like, it's going all over the place in the backyard. Come on, man.
And that
Um,
naturally grows there. See, I don't know if I know what you're talking about because it probably didn't grow where I grew up. I've never like a bamboo type thing. I
I'm
don't
not
think
sure
I.
when it came into this country. It has become a problem now.
it's
So
Oh,
it
been,
may
it's
not
been,
have been around then.
no,
okay.
it's been here for centuries. It's
Okay,
been,
Really?
okay.
Okay.
unfortunately, the knotweed. And it's one of the things is when a friend of mine told another friend, yeah, I got bamboo on my yard. You want some? And then he brings it in, and I look and go, you don't want to start with that because
Right.
unless you know where you're growing it, you have to stop it or it'll keep growing. It just keeps growing, growing, growing. And you cut it down. If you cut it all up, each of those parts will grow a new plant. They're like that Disney
Oh.
Fantasia when Mickey Mouse was chopping off the brooms, and it's more and more and more. Yeah,
Wow. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. So that's what I do kind of wanted to bring up, like the regional aspect, because I'm still trying to learn just how to grow down here, which I'm kind of lazy with it. I'm not lazy with it. I just don't like getting frustrated with red clay. I'd rather just build things with the red clay.
yeah.
Um,
And the heat, it's
and the
so hot in the
heat.
summer. Oh,
Oh, goodness gracious.
yeah.
Miss Robin, how did you then get into understanding what herbs can help with diabetes? And let's talk about that book for a minute because I did send that to my mother-in-law and she greatly appreciated it. Because
Good.
there's a lot of people out there that might be on the fence, might be around, and they just don't want to go on those stands, which I get it.
Right.
I'm kind of the same. I just don't been there, done that, don't really feel like doing it again. So, what kind of herbs and how did that come into your life? Like how long did you work on it? What happened? Give me all the good stuff.
So my mother was diabetic.
Okay.
So she was diagnosed when I was about 6 or 7, and she ignored it for a few years. And then I was about 8 or 9 when she was hospitalized, and then she had to take it seriously, right?
Mm.
And I watched her go through all kinds of things. So she went to the diet sodas, and she stopped eating butter. She had margarine and all the things that they were telling her to do, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
she would mood swings because she took the insulin, and then all of a sudden the restaurant was busy and we couldn't get, it was just, I just watched her go through all of this stuff. Um, and I asked her a little bit about it at that point. She told me what she knew here and there. And I thought, okay, well, at some point I'm going to end up with diabetes because it runs in families. So obviously I'm going to
Mhm.
have diabetes, um, which isn't totally true, by the way, but it is kind of. And then later on, I mean, I went through life, and I would go to work and I would have my 6 sugars in my coffee, and I would get a big gulp Coke, a big gulp at the Circle K, and I would have
Yeah.
McDonald's lunch and whatever, right? All this stuff. Just because everything was busy. I'm
Yeah.
just busy. I don't have time for all this other stuff. I'm raising 3 boys and I gotta work full time, and I didn't have time for anything else. So I just, would do that. But what I didn't realize is that I was creating diabetes in my body with
Hmm.
all that stuff.
Hmm.
Um, and the way that, like, I would come home from work, I'm driving and I'm tired. Man, all right, I'm gonna stop and get a Coke, right? Caffeine and
Right.
sugar, that'll pick me up so I won't be tired on the way home.
Right.
And it would not help really, because it was raising the sugar and crashing it back down again, and raising
Oh,
it and crashing it back down. So, I ended up, they diagnosed me with diabetes, and then I got really serious about it. I'm like, oh, wait, I don't like this medicine. I don't want to take it. This is not how this is supposed to be, right? So I had heard a few things, snippets here and there. When I was in herb school, they said that diabetes is not an endocrine, as everybody believes it's an endocrine system problem. It is a digestive problem and endocrine and neurological, right? So it's a
hmm.
lot of things. So these little snippets again stuck in my head, and they started coming out, and I'm thinking about it. And I was talking to someone who had diabetes, and he is insulin dependent diabetic. And he said to me, I take insulin so that I can eat what I want.
Oh,
And I
okay.
thought, wow, okay. And I kind of remember my mom doing that. You
Hmm.
know, so if she was going somewhere and was going to eat, she'd take a little extra insulin because she knew she was going to be having whatever, you know, I don't know. Um, and so it was kind of, I thought, I looked at it and I went, that's feels backwards to me. That just doesn't feel right. So I started doing research and I bought a bunch of books and I got online and I'm doing all this stuff and I kept coming across these things and I went, whoa, that's so weird. And then I went back to my herb notes and I'm looking at different things from there, right? So I did a bunch of research, a bunch. And I just kept taking notes and taking notes and taking notes and putting things together. And then I realized what was happening in my body and how the things that my mom was recommended to do back then were horrible, horrible.
Yeah.
The artificial sweeteners, the margarine, that, you know, it made it worse. And so then I was determined to really find out how it all works. Um, and so what I kind of came across was that you eat food, the brain signals the pancreas to then release insulin, and it tells the liver, hey, there's sugar in the bloodstream, right? Take the extra sugar that we can't handle and put it in fat cells in the body because we might need it later. We don't
Mm.
need it now, but we might need it later. So our body can tap into our fat cells to pull the energy out.
Hmm.
And I thought, wait a minute, if the liver is making or stuffing fat cells with stuff, right? But the more fat you have on your body, the more inflammation and problems you have. And it was like I found this cycle and went, that's insane. That's insane. Um, when I watched some podcasts, I watched some people on YouTube and some doctors and all, you know, about diabetes. And a lot of them were saying that the you shouldn't start your day off with carbs, right? The American Diabetes Association says, have a grapefruit and oatmeal.
Hmm.
That's a good way to start, or banana, right? Things like that, things that they're recommending for people. And I'm like, okay, but that's carbs and carbs, you know, that's a lot. So I started experimenting with my own diet and what I would eat. So I'd start the morning with avocado and egg and the things that it took me a while to eat eggs, by the way. Like I would eat an egg or two, but because of when I was younger, eggs were terrible. So much cholesterol. They're terrible for you, right?
Right,
So
right.
then
Yeah.
I had to
Oh,
do a bunch
yeah.
of research on that to figure out because some Joe Rogan podcasts told some guy that I was working with he could have 15 eggs a day, and I went, "Are you insane?" You know, like so I had to actually look at research and figure out that egg is the perfect protein. Um, and it's amazing. So many different things came together. There was what do we put into our body? There was our certain vitamin levels have to be like if you don't have magnesium, omega-3 and vitamin D, your hormones are going to be all over the place, right? So those
Mm.
three levels are essential for the body. Um, and then it was the artificial sweeteners and the seed oils and you know canola oil, which I used all the time because I thought it was a good oil. No.
Mm.
Um, so there was so many things that I found that I was doing that would create this whole thing. And I started making little steps and little changes, and I watched my blood levels come down. And I went to the doctor again and for the checkup that, you know, you have to do all the time once you're diabetic. Um, and she looked at my numbers and she said, what have you been doing? You have lost 50 pounds. Your blood pressure is 112 over 62. It's amazing. Your sugar level has dropped from 7.8 to 5.2. How did you do this? And so I pulled out my health tracker that I created and I said, this is how I did it.
Yeah.
She said, this is amazing. This is wonderful. I said, can I get off the medicine? Absolutely. So she said, you absolutely can. And I will never forget this sentence. You absolutely can reverse diabetes by watching what the intake is and doing the things that you've been doing. And I thought, I gotta tell people, I gotta,
Yeah.
get it down, write it down.
So beautiful stars. Thank you, Miss Robin, for explaining all that. So you all know who are listening, please hit that thumbs up. It helps with the algorithm. Leave a comment below so this information can get out there. Below in the description, everyone, there is a link to get the book that Robin put together on reversing diabetes, the meal planner, the health tracker. All of those links are below in the description. So, Lucky, what do you think about hearing all this?
Life is complicated, and usually people want to go with the easy solution.
Yeah,
I mean,
Yeah,
my own doctor. I was on meds for a few different things in the years, and to be blatantly honest, I told my doctor that I got off some of them, but I've been walking an hour a day and monitoring my heartbeat and everything, and watching my blood pressure, and everything seems to be good. She goes, absolutely. If you can do an hour walking a day, yes, and you don't need the meds because, but most patients, they're looking for the quick solution, and it's easier for me to tell them to take the meds than it is to say you got to have a healthier lifestyle.
yeah,
And she says, but honestly, and with the doctor, you have a small window of 10 to 15, if you're lucky, half an hour with your doctor.
yeah,
So they need a quick fix, and if it means telling them, okay, keep on these meds. You're still monitoring. You're keeping things okay with the med you're taking. That's better than finding other meds to get to fix it. So
yes,
that's
yeah.
the weird thing, is that the best thing you can do is eat healthy and exercise. But that's also, for most people, it's the hardest thing. Like meditation. Meditation, all you gotta do is sit and be quiet for half an hour to an hour. But it's the most difficult thing you can do.
Yes, yes. I should maybe at some point soon do my whole spiel about meditation for others, especially for all the different brain types. So I'll be putting that out there because maybe we don't have to sit, you know. Um, Robin, what I heard, oh, including what Lucky said, as in like you only get so much time with your doctor, it really you do need to exercise and eat right. What I heard when you were talking though is, and maybe it's because I also know you, when you said you did like your investigating, your research, I really gotta tell folks, I know you, so I know the amount you did. I like you went deep, you went far, you were cross-referencing. I know you did. Because you research every little thing that pops into your mind. So I can't imagine if it's like a project. So it's that taking the initiative for your own life, for your own
right.
body, learning
Yes.
what's really going on with your body. And along with that, I was hearing a lot of all the how do I want to
Misinformation,
say it? Yeah, it's
misguided. Yeah,
yes. And maybe it's because they didn't know, so I ain't blaming nobody.
right.
But yeah, because so I kind of fell in the same boat. I take after my grandmother. From looks to we have the same teeth to the same build to she was extremely diabetic to the point they had to remove half of her foot, both feet at some point. Like, so we just kind of, at some point, I just kind of submitted to the fact of you're probably going to be diabetic, Court. Just, you know, it is what it is. And I think once we submit to that, we then fall into like what your friend said. Well, I take the insulin so I can eat what I want. And opposed to doing that, you did what Lucky is saying. You exercised, you paid attention what you ate, but then you even took it a step further and said, wait a minute, I'm going to really look at food and herbs and spices. If a lot of this is, I might not be able to start working out until I get the inflammation down. What gets the inflammation down? That sort of
Right,
thing.
right.
That you then, this is the one thing that makes you different than others. Beautiful Miss Robin. You tracked it. I might do something
Yeah,
and
do
I'm not, yeah, I'm not
that.
tracking anything. I'm just,
Right.
let's see how this goes. I'm not tracking anything. So the fact that you track so much and got to be that living example, but in document form, that's great. That's
That
great.
tracking was so important for me. And I feel like it is with anybody who wants to take control, right? Because I took my blood sugar before I ate, 1 hour after I ate, and then 2 hours after I ate. So every piece of food that went in my body, I could see how does that affect my sugar, right?
Wow.
So, beef, it doesn't have carbs. Cool, all right. But it did make me go up a little bit, elevate it more than I expected to, more than chicken, right? So I
Yes.
know,
Right.
yeah, I can have beef, but I need to be careful, not too much, not too often or whatever. So because everybody's body is different, we react to things differently. And our sensitivities to certain foods changes over time too.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
I tracked as having, I took one of those, a food sensitivity test. And they do like, I don't know how many, 400 different foods, and they tell you what causes inflammation in your body now.
Wow.
So I did that several years ago on the advice of a chiropractor that I was going to. And I was surprised. There were some things in there that I just really didn't think about. The black pepper. What? Okay. In my body, it caused inflammation. Now, I had one again, maybe 5 or 6 years later, black pepper didn't show up at all. Because I guess I had whatever was going on in my body was different, right? So even if you do that whole elimination diet and bring things back one at a time, you might find it for right now, but it could change over time. So tracking was super important. So I could see what it did for me.
Fascinating. And I know this to be true because I'm allergic to like shellfish stuff. Well, I can eat a ton of shrimp, which is wonderful, but I can't do lobster. I can't do crawdads. I can't do any of
Right.
those. But then over the years, it then turned into oysters, clams, like so
Yeah.
much seafood that I'm gonna be sicker than a dog if I even remotely have any of it.
Mm.
Um, so that didn't start happening until about my 30s when the allergy started shifting and changing. Lucky, are
Yeah.
you allergic to anything food-wise? I guess I never
Yes.
asked you that.
Yeah, I'm
No?
allergic to wine. Yes, I'm allergic to red wine.
To
Red
red
wine.
wine.
Is it the
Yes.
tannins in the wine? Do you know?
It's complicated, honestly. It's part of the way the wine is processed, how it fermented, so
Oh.
that it leads into apple cider and it leads into some other things. The way the bacteria process the fruits, there's a byproduct that it's most people are no reaction to it. For me, it's a problem. So that literally, if there's a beer tap, when I used to, this is what my friends would tell if we had a clean beer tap at the bar we sat at, because I would break out in hives because there was bacteria in the lines that was fermenting. And again,
Oh,
most people never react to it because beer taps normally a good bar would clean it
yes.
sometimes once a day, most a couple times a day, depending.
Yeah.
If they didn't, it would start to ferment inside the lines, and I would break out in hives. And my friends would know that the bar was not cleaning their lines, and they would pressure the owner of the place or the manager that and basically push them and say, I know for a fact, and we
Yeah.
used to be able to drink for free sometimes,
Yeah,
but that's
exactly.
but like yeah, my allergies normally come in because I actually this is the weirdest thing. I found out about it because I had apple. No, no, it was blueberry pie. I had a blueberry pie and I broke out in hives, and I didn't know what it was. It started in my belly, and moved up to my moved like a target, moved all my body,
Oh,
and that's when I went to the emergency room because I don't know what was going on. My whole body was turning red. And they go, oh, yeah, something you ate is that you were allergic to. And the last thing was blueberry pie because at that time I was intermittent fasting off and on.
okay.
And they go, yeah, you're allergic to blueberry pie. I'm like, I'm not allergic to blueberries. I know that for a fact. I've been eating them. I lived with blueberries on the land for years.
Yeah.
And that's when the woman who gave it to my mother and then to me was said that, oh yeah, I use fermented blueberries, the way the process in the pie. It was a long
Yeah,
story, and
yeah, yeah.
I still don't quite
Yeah.
understand why the blueberries had to be fermented, but I think it's something healthy in your way of
Yeah.
like probiotics, something like that. Long story short, um, I was a big beer drinker for my life, and that used to hives every so often, and we could figure it out. And then wine got the hives, and then I put things together. Went to my doctor, explained everything, and he says, "Yeah, allergies are crazy." And then I went to the allergy test, and I showed no allergies to anything.
Well, it's because it's got to be the process. It's got to be
Right.
some kind of the fermenting process.
Yeah,
And
Wow.
so I talked to the
interesting.
allergy doctor, and he says, "Yeah, unfortunately, we cannot test for everything. We can only test for some things, the major ones. But your allergies involved in the way the byproducts, something that most people are
Yes.
not affected by, and a lot of
Wow.
allergies are like that. People who have allergies, they don't know what's wrong with them because they're breaking their body's responding to a part of the process, like a link in the process for the food, especially." Processed food in itself. There are little things that they put in there that
Yes.
it's on the package, but you don't know because one or two things will work together.
Yeah.
So the best thing you can do is eat healthy food like herbs and I mean, the backyard is so many things that we don't even know are edible that are
Yeah.
amazing.
I
I had
lucky. Oh, I'm
yeah,
sorry. Go ahead. You had
I
what?
had a friend who was never took illegal drugs, but he could go anywhere and find something that would make him, let's just say, relaxed. Let's just say that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He could find things that were never Schedule 9 or whatever the FDA
Yeah.
says, but he could go in the backyard and pick something and put in the right combination and be relaxed.
Yeah.
Um, there are things, I mean, just my own backyard. I know them. I'm like, oh, I know what that does. I know what that does. Oh my goodness, and it grows naturally. But for
Oh,
the most
yeah.
part, you don't touch it because it's a weed. You pull them all up and it doesn't affect you because you're not processing, you're not taking it, drying it out and putting it with other things.
Yeah, and I think, you're making a good point, Lucky, about really learn your area, your land. Because like down here, when we first moved down here, we had to learn some stuff as in because there's different bugs, there's different dangers. Like, but our land down here, if you get bit by what's that? Not the black widow, but the other dangerous one, the
Brown recluse.
recluse. Yeah. If you get bit by a recluse, I literally have a ton of weeds in my yard right now that is actually the onset cure. Like you still got to go to the hospital, but there's these beautiful weeds that grow that if you grind it up and make it into a paste real quick and stick it on the bite, that will save you to get to the hospital. Um, so it's like every area seems to have, like you were saying, Robin, the cures are right in your backyard or nearby somewhere for all sorts of different things that are regional, human, period, what have you. Um, Robin, what are you going to grow anything this year that you take on a regular basis or you incorporate into your
Um,
life on
um, I'll be right back.
oh,
Sorry, I was.
I just heard. Okay, Lucky and I will keep going.
I, I,
So,
I I have a story about the brown recluse. It's not
okay.
the brown recluse venom that's dangerous. It's the it's the bite itself. You have to clean that. If you get a bite from anything, clean it right away. That's the funny thing about spiders. That
Well,
if you
you clean it right away. Huh.
because our skin is dirty, and the spider itself, you get it outside. There are things, so it's basically part of the venom itself is not, you know, which causes it. It's the other things associated with it. Like I said, the whole process, things work together.
Yeah.
So that's why you said about putting the poultice of the herbs
Yeah.
because they help prevent the infection from starting. The
Yeah.
infections, and that's the thing. It's easier to say, "Oh, it's brown recluse," because unfortunately, or fortunately, I'm in the right group of people who actually. I know people who raise brown recluse as quote pets, And you, of course, you're saying, "Oh my God, that's so dangerous." Well, these people know what they're doing, and they know that
Yeah.
if they get bitten, and some of them have been bitten, some have been several times and never had a reaction.
Yeah.
When if they get bit by their pet tarantula, you know, they're much more concerned, which supposedly the brown recluse is the worst thing in the world. But these people know that, oh, if
Uh-uh.
I get bit, I got to clean the area right away. And then, you know, you got to put, it's the weirdest thing. You got to keep the area moist and clean with, you know, the right, there's a whole process with it. I
You
don't
know
even
what's
know.
interesting, like, because you're saying that, and I'm like, so I grew up, I'm extremely allergic to like all bugs, by the way, all
Really.
bugs, and they love me. And like, Brad will even, dude, just the other day, we're sitting on the back porch, and a carpenter bee is, doing its thing, and it wants to be near me all the time, and it lands on my leg. And Brad's like, "My goodness, do you see that?" And I said, "Yeah, it thinks my leg is some wood." Like, all bugs are just drawn to me, and I'm allergic to the majority of them. So when I was a kid, um my dad would do it, or I was always taught to like get a bunch of mud together, like mud. It could be any kind of mud, red clay mud, black soil mud, it don't matter. Get mud on it and get that on there so it'll suck everything out when it dries, as it's drying. And so
Hmm.
that's what I've always did, kind of like the poor man's calamine lotion. It'll just suck everything out. So I have been my entire life having to put stuff on my body because I'm alert. Oh my gosh, even mosquito bites. Like, I could get stung by a mosquito bite and it'll swell up this big. One mosquito. I mean, it's like, and my mom growing up was like, well, it's because you got sweet blood. And every time she said that, I would go, yeah, because I probably got damn diabetes. Like, I just, even when I grew up in a household, because of the health problems on my father's side, the health problems on my mother's side, there was barely any salt. There was definitely no sugar. There's definitely no this, and I mean, we were not allowed to have anything. And I think that was maybe not the best route to take, because then when I became older, I'm a teenager, I'm making my own money. I'm gonna stop at Burger King if I want to stop at Burger King. I'm gonna do whatever I want. So like, it I don't know if it was the best way to go about being so restrictive. Because then I gained a bunch of weight as I was older, and then it was like, damn, I might have diabetes. Hi, Miss Robin, are you doing okay, my dear?
Doing okay. Putting up a pyramid over my house at this very moment, as a matter
Oh,
of
got
fact.
it. It
The knock at the door was actually a fireman letting me
oh,
know that they're here in my backyard, just beyond my backyard, putting out a fire in the woods that came across from the neighbor. So they're out there spraying everything down.
it
They
is
seem to
Good
be getting it under
Friday.
control.
Yes, good thing.
Right.
Are they
There's no
sexy?
keeping in the dark.
Honestly, I
Sorry.
didn't know I was looking at
Yeah,
flames.
I know. You're like, shit, there's a fire.
Besides, they were like, I don't know, like 25, 30
Oh,
maybe.
right. God, we're all getting so old that you can't
Yeah.
even look at them anymore, because now it's like, oh, you're a child. Anyways, sorry, Lucky. That was just a little bit of lady talk. We do that often. What they look like. Hey.
Yeah, yeah. So I have
So,
the guys, I sent the guys outside because they didn't even know it was happening either.
yes,
To
get the
keep an eye
boys
on it
on
and let
it.
me know if I need to do
Hmm.
something, if I need to, but they seem to
Yeah.
be getting it under control.
Yeah, and the
So
boys can keep an
yeah,
eye on that. Yeah.
yeah,
Okay. Well, good thing you put a pyramid up. It is Good
yes.
Friday. I think everyone is going to be safe. Everyone's going to be good. We are, by the way, folks, recording this on Friday night. So by the time this airs on lovely Saturday at 8 p.m., always Esoteric Tea, either at Lucky Stone 888 Live or here at Stars of the Morning Light. Please subscribe to Lucky Stone. All of his info is below. Same with a Happy Hippie Holistic. You can contact her with different social medias, emails, whatnot. Because, Robin, because you just brought up how you put a pyramid over your house, which is great. Um, you create personalized jewelry for folks. I want to talk about this
Yes.
for a moment. Like, how how does that work? How does that, oh, you know what? I might have your prayer beads next to me. But how does that work when someone orders, like, okay, so a month or two ago, yeah, tell
Sometimes,
us.
so sometimes somebody will see something on the website, happyhippie.com. They'll
Mm-hmm.
see something on the website and they'll say, I really like that wrap, the way you wrapped it, but I want a X rock, right? I want the stone to be something different. No problem. So I have a bunch of all these stones and I lay them out and I take pictures and I send them and they tell me which one they want. If I don't have one that they want, I will go about finding one that they do, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's one way to do it. Then they choose their kind of wire that they want me to use, if it's copper or sterling silver or just a silver coated wire. And then I'll get to creating something similar. Now, none of the pieces, even if I try to make them similar, none of them are exactly the same.
Right.
That's because
Right.
it's all handmade, right? Sometimes people say to me, I love that stone. Would you wrap it? Okay, well, how would you like to wrap? I don't care. You're the artist, just however it comes out. And in that case, it's kind of the stone dictates the wrap for me.
Ah, okay.
It depends
Okay.
on the shape and the size and the thickness and the what I feel like, I wanted to say, sort of, or how I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to feel. Some stones are warmer and happier, and some are, more rigid and protective. And so that kind of dictates how I wrap it.
That's fascinating. So the stone dictates, but not the person's energy, which makes sense to me, but I don't know why I always thought like you would tap into the person's energy and be creating based off their energy, when in fact it would be the stone that dictates because it's
Yes.
going to, this is
Unless
interesting.
somebody says to me specifically, I need a stone for anxiety, right? Then we'll talk about the stones and the energies that work for anxiety and calming that down. And then we might talk about the problems and things that go along with it. If they're
Right.
willing to do that, I don't pry. If somebody says, this is my issue and I need something for this, then we go into it and we'll figure it out.
Right.
But
So
other
then
than
when you're
that,
rapping, you're like thinking about that person
yes,
and thinking about how they're going to
right.
heal
About
and how
how
they're
it's
going to
going to
release
help.
and okay. See,
Right.
that's what I thought every piece would be like, but I'm understanding how you're doing it, letting the stones dictate is way more actually effective. What do you think, Lucky?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the thing. I love copper. One of my favorite things is
Yeah.
copper.
Yeah.
And because everyone wants the gold wrap or the gold plate wrap or the pretty, silver and gold. And for me personally, I mean, I can't. There's very few pieces of jewelry with gold that I can actually wear because I tarnish absolutely everything. Used to piss because my wife is Thai and gold is like the primary highest thing, and you wear gold and it's the best. And every time I wear gold, she says, "You tarnish it again." And I'm like, I really shouldn't wear gold. I keep telling you, oh, but this is so beautiful. Not after 2 weeks with me.
Yeah. Yeah.
But um, copper, I never have a problem with copper. I can wear copper, never have a problem with tarnishing or decaying or anything like that.
Uh,
It's silver too. I have silver rings. I love silver and I don't dislike gold. It's just gold doesn't like me. But like I
So,
said, copper. I've wrapped my own stones in with using copper
yeah.
wire, and to me it just works. I don't know how it is. You know how to get it. It just fits the stone, and copper also is cheaper. You can get thinner or thicker. It just works. I don't know.
Yeah.
I
And
don't know.
I
Yeah.
love working with copper. I really do. But there are people that don't like it, right? Like,
Right.
no, I
Right.
want something silver. And that's fine.
Yeah.
So I do stock those other wires too. But when I'm wrapping, for the most part, I just really like copper. I love the feel of it. I love the
Yeah.
energy. I feel like I know silver conducts energy well, and so does gold, but copper to me just really conducts it.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
If you use copper because you can use as much copper as you want because it's copper. Although copper is a precious member of metal, and
Mhm.
it can be pricey in large amounts, but when you're using wire, you can use all the copper you want because it's only going to cost you a few bucks for a spool of copper wire, and you can do anything you want, and you can wrap it in the right, spiral, in the right way, and have just use those energies of the crystal, and also get it in the right alignment. Copper, I love copper.
I
Honestly,
love I love copper too. I love copper because it's an everyday conductor for me. Like copper, you can use copper every day to conduct that energy. When I use gold is when I'm doing like some serious work.
yeah, yeah, it's
That's
focused.
how I see it. Yeah. And I do my silver. When I use silver, I'm doing some like self-cleansing work, for energy wise. But I have this, like Robin made this right during, and it's a beautiful copper. It's probably not going to come through all that great. You sent this to me at Yule because you knew I was going to be doing my big Yule ceremony and
Yeah.
thinking about all of you. And I like using prayer beads when I'm, praying for everybody. Um, and it's lovely. Miss Robin, you also recently started because I want to bring this up for a moment because it's unique to what you're doing. You started taking the
Backyard on fire. You don't have to worry about evacuating.
It's a, no, we're okay.
Got it. Now we're gonna have to rebuild the fence and everything where the dogs are at. Or
We'll talk about that all later. Thank you.
Shed is fine, but in the fence behind the shed is burnt down.
Okay, but we're fine. We don't have to evacuate. So we're good. Rebuilding we can do. So, okay, so
you're in
recently.
Chatsworth, Georgia. That's what all I could say. You're in Chatsworth. That's what I'm That's what I can say to that. So
Right,
good
right.
thing everybody's safe. And thank you, firemen, for doing your job. We need you this
Yes,
weekend and all through the summer. Um,
yes,
so you are now using the higher consciousness charts, the level of consciousness chart.
yes.
When people are like, maybe you're doing a rapping class or pick a stone class or whatever, you're using that chart as so many people here at Stars of the Morning Light are familiar with. This is why I'm bringing it up because it kind of brings in all the beautiful stars. So many people here are familiar with the levels of consciousness chart by David Hawkins. How do you explain that again as to, like, let's say you're teaching a class to pick, to make a bracelet or something. How do you utilize that chart?
So it in nature, things follow a pattern, right? With herbs, there's a doctrine of signatures. And they teach that in herb school. So you can look at a plant and the way it's structured, and you can kind of tell a lot of times what it's good for in the body. Stones are similar in that they kind of follow the chakra system. So if I need something that somebody just really needs to root, they just really need to get down to earth, they just really need that core, healing carnelian because it's red, like the chakra. So the colors of the chakras kind of dictate the color of the stones and the color, and what they're good for. Now, some stones do other things too, right? They're not just that, but the consciousness, the level of consciousness chart is also set up in colors like the chakras, right? And so as you move up, you come out of the root, you go into, and you keep going up in the colors the same way. So I use that chart to have people kind of physically be able to see a word, right? Find your emotion that you're having a problem with here. Okay, so I'm in fear and anger. I just, that kind of thing. And so they can kind of learn from that. These are the things, number one, I also teach them, this is what you can do besides the stone. But while you're doing this and you're
Right.
holding the stone and meditating, you can use all those things together. So it's been working really well.
That's awesome. That is really awesome. What do you think about that, Lucky?
That's your thing.
Well, I
Higher
know, but
consciousness. Yeah,
you do know the chart though, but that is kind of cool, like
I, I
introducing
I know the
working
chart,
with
and
crystals along with the chart. Yeah, that's
it's
kind
it's
of
it's
cool.
it's well, everything's related, herbs and crystals and the mindset. We're all different. You have to find what works for you, and then
Mm.
go and one of the biggest things is physician, know thyself. You got to know who you are. You got to know where you are each time. And I mean, biggest thing is that I grew up, my sister and my father were deathly allergic to bees. Deathly.
Hmm.
I was not. So my grandfather taught me how to catch wasp nests and move them to the apple trees.
Mm.
Now, wasps, because they're dangerous for my family, so they can't be near the barns or the houses. But we don't have to kill them all. We can find a way of using them. My father, I mean, it was my grandfather. My grandfather was big. Like my grandfather had a small field of these Japanese knotweed, which we were talking about before, which are invasive, which are horrible. No one wants them in their yard. Well, he had a little tiny field that stayed. It was like a little, maybe a 10 by 10 little thing off of his garden, and it never left that little 10 by 10, which is impossible. I tell anyone else, they go, no, that's not how it works. That stuff goes everywhere. And I'm like, but my grandfather did it. And I still to this day do not know how he did it. But like I said, the those bees will kill half my family. But for me, uh, because my grandfather, and unfortunately being a kid and not knowing how to do this right, I get stung a lot.
Yeah.
I got
So
stung a lot. To this
yeah,
day,
you're
yeah, my wife, it was a hornet's nest. My wife got stung and she got this huge welt. And she goes, "Oh my God," and then she starts taking it. I'm like, you know what? I'll get rid of them. Don't worry about it. And we had an apple tree, this is where it came from, and it was just covered with caterpillars. The thing was gonna die.
mm,
There was nothing we could do. So I'm like, I remember when I was a kid, this is what I used to do with my grandfather. So I waited till night, put it into I think it was a coffee can, which we had like an old old Folgers coffee can, which I don't know, we can't get those anymore, but put them in there. At which point I moved it to the tree, and um, it was cold at night, so that I basically took and I put string around it. Didn't and I got stung a couple times, but again, I got stung by these wasps. My wife has this huge welt. Now she's,
yeah,
oh, you didn't get stung. I got stung a couple of times. Here they are. She goes, but those are just little tiny dots.
yeah,
How are you not growing? Getting that. She used a word for it that I don't know, but and I'm like, yeah, I've been stung so many times that my body is so used to it that it kind of it burned, but it burned for 5 minutes. My poor
yeah,
wife had this welt for hours, and maybe almost a day later that she had this huge welt from those stupid
yeah.
blind Buffy's people. But yeah, you have to know your body, and with someone else might be, oh no, that's not a problem, or that's death to me. To you, it might be the opposite. It's crazy.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying. Know thyself, which includes the body. Know where you are emotionally, as we were talking about the crystals. Know where everything is, within and around. Hmm. Miss Robin, because I honestly, now that you've talked about those evasive things, those plants that you were talking about, I think we do have them. And I think those are the things that we try to dig out like four separate times. Brad's like going at it, going at it, going at it, and they keep coming back. And all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna let my neighbors have that little 3 feet of the land, and I'm gonna put up a big old fence, and then I'm just gonna keep on mowing. That's what I'm gonna do about them bitches.
And that will kind of work, but the
Ah,
rhizomes, you have to get the rhizomes under the ground,
we
because that's where they,
Brad has been in the ground trying, if it is what I think it is, like
No, it
they're
doesn't.
yeah.
Yeah, that is
okay.
it. Yeah,
I can't stand. We have dug that out
oh yeah.
4 times, but the problem is they don't take care of their back.
Hmm.
And so it just keeps on coming.
Yeah,
So
right.
I have 3 feet of my land. I don't care. I'm done digging. So I'm just going to put up a nice big old fence and they can handle their stuff because it used to be that an 80 something year old man lived there. And so
Oh yeah.
we actually were trying to help and get his land and help him. The neighbor on the other side and us were helping him. And that's not the case anymore. It's like some 22-year-old kids. Um, I'm not doing the work for them. I'm gonna just build a fence. That's
Well,
what I'm gonna do. And then hopefully, at least then I can like manage my area.
Mhm.
because I can't manage theirs. That's great. But that is what those are. I'm pretty positive. The more I was listening to Lucky, going back to the beginning, going, okay, this is what's going on. But that's even a part of it. Know your land, know yourself, know inside, outside, all
Mm.
around. Utilize what you can. Cut away what and create great boundaries if need be,
Yes.
right? Right?
Yep.
Right? So, Miss Robin, I appreciate you talking with us, and I am happy those firemen handled the fire in the back, and I'm sure
Yeah.
you're curious as to what it looks like. So, do you want to leave us with anything on this great weekend that we're having?
Oh, wow. I I don't
I
know. We
know.
talked about so much, right? I don't
Yeah.
know. I just any change is a change, right? Any change you make is progress. So
Yeah.
if you have whatever the issue is, if it's diabetes or if it's some other, um, make those small steps because you're not going to be full-blown diabetic, insulin dependent, and then eat an apple and say, yay, right? It doesn't happen like that. But
Mm.
if you can cut out some of the artificial things and go more natural, that will help. If you can start eating eggs in the morning instead of eating oatmeal, that can help. Just little things, because those little changes that will over time become habits. And that's
That's lovely.
the way to
And
conquer.
track them like you did, because then you can look like,
Yes.
hey, I did this.
Yeah.
I came this far. Look at how
Yeah.
much I've healed and improved and changed myself from beginning to this to now. This was me doing it.
Mhm.
That's track it and give yourself that credit, right, Miss
Yeah.
Robin? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes. Yes, I love it. Definitely. All right. Well, Lucky, do you have any final words? Or are we going to leave it with every little change helps track your progress and give yourself kudos and compassion for ups and downs, right?
Yeah, and well, it's also you have to know also what you're putting into your body because oatmeal itself, there are four kinds of oatmeals. And there's
Yes.
there's, there's that stupid quick oats, which is, the Quaker mornings with the brown sugar and
Yes.
and that those quick oats.
But
They're not
that's
the same.
why
Yeah,
they can
that's
always get Robin's book,
so
Reversing
many.
Diabetes, that has that information as to the different herbs, the different spices,
Exactly.
what to stick with, what to leave out, all of it. So actually, Lucky, you were about to you're selling Robin's book for her, because yes, people do need to know that stuff, definitely.
You need to know what you put in your
Definitely.
body. You need to know
Yeah,
what exactly, because again, different things together will help you, but separate can hurt you. So that's the weird thing about foods. For me
yeah,
especially, I the things I'm allergic to are the way things are processed and naturally processed. So
right,
you got to know what,
right.
and also, I mean, I get migraines, and what's causing my migraines? I got to track what going on in those few days to figure out what the cause of migraines.
What
You
it
can't just
is.
say, I'll just need the meds. And I almost got on that. I almost got on this horrible medicine with this terrible side effects to help me with the migraines, when all I needed to do was track what was causing it.
Yes, yes. So
Unfortunately, mine was weather related. Yes.
little by little, pay attention, observe, track. Thank you, everybody, for being here on this beautiful, hopefully, resurrection, renewal, rebirth, all of it weekend. Enjoy yourselves. Miss Robin, thank you. Lucky, thank
Thank
you.
you.
Robin, go check out your house. Send me pictures because I'll be
All
curious.
right. I
Bye,
will.
everybody. Enjoy your weekend. Thank you, Lucky.
Have a
Bye.
great weekend, everyone.